Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.
Hello and welcome to The Local Live on this Thursday evening, January 29th. I'm your host, Don Julian. I'm here to bring you the only news show covering the Mamaroneck, Larchmont, and Ryeneck communities. Let's take a look at what's in store for tonight. In the aftermath of the Charlie Hebdo attack, we're discussing freedom of speech in the media and how it relates to our community. Stay tuned for our live roundtable. Coming up, see how our community remembered the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Varsity fans, get your fix before this year's Super Bowl with local updates. And in the spotlight this week, we have the best place in Larchmont to watch the Super Bowl. Looking for a doggy to cuddle up with this winter? Meet Sherman, our pet of the week. Winter Storm Juno turned out to be a bust for the village of Mamaroneck. Many expected a blizzard, but we got only a fraction of what was predicted to be a possible record-breaking storm. Local Live reporter John Schiffano got community reactions.
After weather forecasts predicted 12 to 24 inches of snow in the village of Mamaroneck, Winter Storm Juno dropped only 2 to 3 inches. Many prepared by buying food and filling up their gas tanks ahead of time, but was it worth the rush?
Well, this storm cost us a lot of business. Monday we closed early at 3 o'clock, and Tuesday we ended up closing, expecting 2-3 feet of snow. And it seems like it was a bust.
Well, my family went out and bought a lot of food. My parents wouldn't let me out of the house, and basically we just did all this for nothing.
Really, we were closed for the one day, Tuesday, for the safety and well-being of our employees. Even though we felt there was a commitment to the community, we chose to put our employees' family and safeties first.
You can't really, it's all up to God what happens, so it's better be prepared than not prepared. There's no, from Sandy, it's better.
In the aftermath, many got to enjoy a nice day off for a small amount of snowfall. So how good and bad could Juno truly have been? Last Thursday, Mamaroneck's Mayor Norman Rosenblum held a forum to remember the liberation of Auschwitz on January 27th, 70 years ago. Present were 2 Holocaust survivors, Judy Altman and Agnes Vertes. Altman remembered the liberation as the most wonderful day in the world. They stressed the importance of never forgetting such atrocities for the sake of our future.
Our aim is to you young people, because you will create a better world, and we want to hear from you. We want to give you the message that such things should never happen again.
Students from Mamaroneck, Ryeneck, French American, and Scarsdale High Schools were present and participated in the Q&A session. One Mamaroneck High School student asked if the survivors still feel anger and frustration after their experience.
As a child, I did not understand what was going on. But as I grew older, I got very angry. The first time I really got angry was when I visited Yad Vashem. I don't know if you know what that is. Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, and in the children's hall, and I saw how many children, 1,500,000 children murdered. Why? Why? I felt very angry. I came out of there and I was the angriest person you could meet. And then somehow I also had this feeling that, why was I saved? I mean, who am I? I'm nobody. Maybe there was a person, a child, who could have been an Einstein, and yet I was saved? Why was I saved? And I resolved this by saying that I was saved to be the voice of those who can no longer speak. And that's when I started making a documentary about the Holocaust.
Mayor Rosenblum read a famous poem by Martin Niemöller, First They Came, and emphasized the importance of citizens participating in a democracy by voting and staying active and informed. You can view this entire inspiring community event and many others by visiting lmctv.org and clicking on videos. In other news, former Village of Mamaroneck trustee Andres Bermudez Hallstrom has launched a new website at mamaroneckinsider.com to inform residents about what's going on in their local government. He said to the Local Live that he hopes to increase the level of participation in village affairs so that the voices of average residents are heard. Bermudez describes his website as a source for nonpartisan news, insight, and commentary, where he points out key issues to pay attention regarding village affairs. Here's this week's In the Media. Stay tuned for our highlights of what's trending this week and in our local online sources.
We didn't get as much as predicted, but check out the patch for snowfall measurements town by town. By 1 p.m. Tuesday, 10.5 inches piled up in Mamaroneck with an inch less in Larchmont. Have you discovered the interactive bulletin board at theloop.com? This neat feature allows anyone to post news, just like putting up a notice on a corkboard. Just when you thought that everything was shut tight during Tuesday's snowstorm, for example, Loop readers posted that Aroma Coffee Shop was open, that Larchmont Nursery had a supply of pet-friendly ice melt, and I could still work out at Equinox. Thank you, Loop. The Daily Voice points to one of the upsides of Storm Juno, the kids having fun sledding in Flint Park, a Larchmont tradition. And the paper says more snow is coming our way. Mamaroneck's Hamlet Hub reminds Rhinebeck parents that kindergarten registration is next week. Kids born on or before December 1st, 2010 are eligible. And our congratulations to Mamaroneck High School footballer Joey Spano. As reported in the Hamlet Hub, Joey won the 12th Man Award at a banquet dinner last week. Each year, the award goes to a high school football student who displays hard work, dedication, and strong effort in a team and as an individual. Finally, for the latest on the battle between Shore Acres Property Association and the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club, visit the Mamaroneck Review. Reporter Alina Surial reports a small victory by the club after the zoning board struck down 28 appeals from the property owners fighting proposed new buildings on club property. But it's not over, writes Surial. Read her detailed story in the Mamaroneck Review.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with our roundtable discussion, freedom of speech in the media and our community.
Hello there. We here at the Local Live want to be your main source for staying current with news happening in the Larchmont Mamaroneck community. With that in mind, we'd like to take the time to establish what the Local Live can and can't do.
Can the Local Live inform me about upcoming community events?
Yes, we'll let you know about all the upcoming parades and fairs and have coverage of it to watch in case you missed it.
Can the Local Live cover what's going on in our local government?
Yes, we offer in-depth coverage of the local government and school board meetings in the Larchmont Mamaroneck area and frequently have sit-downs with our elected officials.
Hey, can Local Live tell me exactly where in my body the aliens put the microchip?
No, sorry, we can't do that.
Can the Local Live keep me up to speed with local high school sports?
Yes, we can. We'll have the highlight reels from all the Panthers and Tigers games.
Can the Local Live give my pet ostrich the power of human speech?
What? No. No, of course not.
Can the Local Live cover local businesses?
Yes, we can. We've done profiles of numerous local businesses and we'll cover more in the future.
Local Live, can you confirm my suspicions that Bigfoot lives in the harbor? I've seen him.
Can we cut his feed, please?
Hey, no, cut be silent. Truth be revealed. Anyway.
If you want more news about local government, businesses, high school sports, and everything going on in town, tune to the Local Live Thursday nights at 7:30 on Channel 75 if you have Cablevision and Channel 36 for Verizon customers. And remember, we want to hear from you, the home viewer. Tell us what you think in person, online, or over the phone.
talking about talk. Free speech and freedom of the press, that is. What can be said, and even if it can, should it be, particularly in light of the attack at France's satirical paper, Charlie Hebdo, and the controversial release of some American films. I'm Maura Carlin with Mike Witch.
And as always, you can join the conversation by telephone, email, or tweet. I'll be checking my computer screen from time to time. The information that you need will appear on your screen.
We can't guarantee answers, but we can promise an interesting discussion with our guests. Journalist Polly Kreisman, the founder and editor of theloopny.com, Lloyd Green, a Daily Beast contributor and former attorney with the U.S. Justice Department, and Matt Sullivan, an independent filmmaker and LMC TV's own associate director. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to start with your reactions to the attack on Charlie Hebdo, ostensibly because of some cartoons about the Prophet Muhammad.
I know that my reaction as a journalist and perhaps even as an American was a very visceral First Amendment, je suis Charlie reaction. But you remember Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said that free speech is great except if you cry fire in a movie theater.
In a crowded movie theater.
And I think in this day and age we have to play with the margins a little bit. I think that when information is disseminated, unlike during the time of the Founding Fathers, now it's immediate, it's digital. The whole world can get involved in one conversation in seconds. And I think for that reason, thoughtful people might want to think about whether or not anything goes.
You want to join in, Lloyd?
It's not just a matter, though, of anything. It's also a matter of anywhere or everywhere. Let me tell you what I mean. Charlie Hebdo specialized in satire. And the idea of saying the audience could exact an absolute veto on what they write, it's chilling. As opposed to, let's say, the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, which would not put that on their respective covers. And I mean, said both have a lot to contribute. And if, on the other hand, it turns down to, well, we in the United States are going to need to alter what we view as norms of speech to placate or not to ruffle.
Do you think we
feathers.
should or shouldn't do that?
I'm saying I'm not a big fan of it. And that having been said,
it's a painful thought.
And that having been said, we're already doing it now here. I mean, everyone's saying, oh, we should sweet Charlie Hebdo. On the other hand, you look at college campuses, oh my gosh, they have speech codes.
Well, before we get to that and the political correctness that we're all dealing with in society, what would happen if similar cartoons ran here?
Well, to go back in time, you ended up having the Piss Christ, which was a crucifix in urine. You had the Virgin Mary.
That was supposedly art, as I recall.
But where that goes is, you ended up having people rightfully got upset over it. But there's a difference between I got upset over the exhibit and I think I'm going to go ahead and kill someone. We self-censor all the time. We don't go out on the street killing people because we didn't like the editorial in yesterday's Daily News.
That's true. Is it different from, there was a case a while ago about a pastor burning the Koran, and that was held to be free speech. I don't know if you remember that one.
It was in Florida.
In Florida,
yeah. That was held to be free speech. Is that along the same lines? Again, it's not, there aren't words saying, come on, let's fight, let's kill people.
Nazis were allowed to march in Skokie.
That's right, we all remember that.
But that says something about what the First Amendment is about. And yes, we self-censor all the time. I mean, you don't scream fire in a theater. That's definitely the case. But to go ahead and say, A, you are going to be intimidated because there is violence behind my threat, or B, I must go ahead and just muzzle myself completely.
Okay, so let me ask you, a number of American news sources, when doing the stories about Charlie Hebdo, did not print or put on screen the actual covers, the supposedly offensive covers. ABC, CNN, AP, New York Times, I don't know who else, but just for example, was that right or wrong?
And if I can add, there were other international publications that immediately created new boundaries that you could or could not cross in terms of what you could say in print. There were a couple of examples in Europe, which to me is even worse. But
so they were setting new principles of their own freedom?
There were certain words that we can no longer use in print. Some of the editors were saying, or for right now, we're not going to say certain phrases because we don't want to incite any more violence.
Actually, what you just said is the answer to a tweet that we've already received from one viewer who asks, where does one draw the line between simply expressing yourself and possibly offending someone else?
I think that's the question we're all trying to answer. I think maybe it has to be a judgment call by each individual journalist or movie maker.
Well, speaking about movie makers, we have one at the end of the table
What a coincidence.
whose recent short film has already been in some film festivals. Have you come across this issue?
I think you come across this issue anytime you go to a theater, anytime you watch television. You're obviously seeing, especially now more than ever, you have the interview that's been out, you have American Sniper, all these films that really, I think, as an artist and someone who is behind the creative process, you want to engage your audience and you want to ask questions. You want to make your audience question itself and their ideals and what they stand for. But I think you have to do it in a fair and just way. And it can't be one-sided. And I think the same thing goes for journalism, where you want to present facts and you want the audience to walk away from your film or from your TV show thinking, okay, this has changed me in some way.
Well, let me interrupt you. Does that mean all those silly movies, and I'm not going to name them, that really don't have anything other than sophomoric humor, shouldn't be aired because they're not really going to change anyone, but they're a time of laughing?
Right. I mean, those obviously have their place and they serve for entertainment. But at the same time, you look at some of the films out now, and I would go to say that American Sniper can also, in a way, serve as entertainment because there are plenty of things in that film that didn't actually happen, according to his memoir. And there are plenty of scenes and characters that exist purely for the sake of telling a story, a well-rounded story, and to get its audience to have a certain emotional feeling.
And is that a free speech issue, whether or not a story has fictional components to it and it's not disclosed?
I would say that they have every right to say it, under our Constitution, but is it right? Is it moral?
But isn't that an artistic freedom
Absolutely.
question? I mean, you don't have to keep to the book, to the facts,
right,
if the book represents facts.
But I think what happens is that it creates a general psyche amongst people. Go to a film and they see something, they say, oh, this is based on a true story.
Right.
And they walk out thinking, I saw a fact. But if you're inserting fiction into fact, they walk away with fiction as fact. And I think that's the problem that you have with a lot of films that are exploring serious topics and things that are really, an issue in our society today.
Let me turn to a different movie. Let's talk about The Interview for a moment. I've heard people say that it shouldn't have been made. People here. What do you think? And it doesn't go to whether it was good or bad.
Right. I haven't seen the movie personally. I know it's on Netflix now. It was released in theaters on Christmas Day, I think to about 300 plus theaters.
I guess we should say, for those who don't realize, it's Seth Rogen's movie about an assassination plot against North Korea's president, and it actually uses the actual sitting president.
Yeah.
It's not a fictional depiction. Because it led me to wonder, what would happen if someone, whether in this country or South Korea or anywhere else, made a film of an assassination plot against President Obama? Not a fictional American president, but a sitting American president. How would we all react? And would it be different?
Well, going back to your initial question, I think what happened there that I most disagree with was Sony's capitulating and saying, we're not going to release this movie on Christmas Day. Then they fine-tuned that a little and they released it in drips and drabs, and now, of course, it's on Netflix. I also work as a reporter in New York City, and the night that Sony made that announcement was stunning. It was stunning. we were all live in Times Square talking to the theater owners, and there was this whole kind of feeling of disbelief. How could this possibly happen?
What did the theater owners want?
The theater owners wanted not to get in the middle. The theater owners wanted people to come to the movies and not get hurt. And I certainly understand that point of view.
So they weren't itching to air the film?
Correct. They're going to make money either way, I suppose they were thinking. And because there were specific threats to audiences in New York City theaters, they certainly didn't want to put themselves in that position. But in a global sense, it was extremely disturbing, and I believe the president the next day said something similar, that how can we let another nation create that kind of fear and artistic censorship in our country?
What do you think, Lloyd? Should they have aired it?
It's a business call. I mean, this is Sony. Its job is entertainment. I don't give them great credit as it's a great money maker, but it's not what I would describe as a paragon of virtue or a beacon of truth. And if you can accept that, flip a coin, heads one way, tails another. And they did look like they did stumble across something new, though, which was go ahead, put it on the internet, put it on Netflix, charge for it. So they were able to recoup something. I mean, I watched it the other day on our snow day. It's a stoner movie that goes stale 2/3 of the way through, but it is what it is.
And they also received the best free publicity that you could possibly have from this.
Nobody would have ever gone to see that movie.
Yeah. From what like I said, I haven't seen the film, but from everyone who's spoken about it, I don't know, maybe Lloyd, you could put your 2 cents in. They said it was not too good.
As I said, it was a good stoner movie 2/3 of the way through, and then it ran out of gas.
My 12-year-old son thought it was hilarious. That pretty much says it all.
But a lot of the decision on that, it was based on business concerns.
And that's a very valid point. And when you think of it as a business decision, you almost can compartmentalize it and make it no longer a First Amendment issue. But we made it a First Amendment issue by not airing the movie on Christmas Day. We made it, we, the United States, Sony, whomever, we theater owners made it a First Amendment issue.
I think the one wild piece out of it were the leaked emails, the internal Sony traffic.
And where do you place that? I mean, was that a First Amendment thing, or are you just finding fascinating what's really being said in when what people think is private, or the fact that people don't realize whatever they write is not private?
I think it's that. It's sort of like if really you never think that thing is going to see the light of day. Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. I mean, as a parent, I have told my children almost their entire lives, whatever you put in writing or whatever you do, make sure you'd be okay seeing it on the front page of the New York Times. And you have these adults who clearly haven't heard that message, at least not from me.
I would say, just to piggyback off of the film business mention of that, you know, films like American Sniper, I know Clint Eastwood has been under a lot of pressure with this film and what it's actually saying, but I think what people need to realize is that while Clint Eastwood is the great, wonderful Clint Eastwood, he's also making a film for a company, and he has a job to do. And if he's not following through on his job of presenting a certain image that's sellable, people aren't going to be happy, and maybe the next time he won't get his film made. So there's also that aspect to it, I think, that people don't really think about, you know, the business angle of filmmaking, and how you're not always, when you're dealing with blockbusters, you're not necessarily making the film that you want to make, you're making the film that everyone wants to see.
Which is the same problem people generally have with art. Right. Is it for art's sake, or is it for some commercial use? Let's get back to media, though. How do you decide when something's too controversial to publish? Like, what standards do you use?
It really depends on the medium. In my opinion, if you're covering a large metropolitan area and you're a broadcast journalist, I think almost anything is fair game as long as it's truthful. I think on the community front, you have to be more careful. At the Loop, we're really hyper aware that our neighbors are the news. And there have been times when I've not published a story because it comes off as a personal attack or it could harm somebody's reputation in a way that an anonymous television voiceover might not do.
Does that apply to comments that people make about stories as well?
We try not to censor the comments. And the whole issue of whether or not people should be posting anonymously, we could do a whole show on that.
Yes, we could.
If I forbid people from posting anonymously, our comment stream would dry up. On the other hand, people find this incredible freedom to be obnoxious when nobody knows who they are. I don't know what that is. It's a part of human nature I never anticipated. So there are definitely comments. I get an email when a comment is posted. I approve it or not approve it.
You can edit it too. You don't have to censor it, but you can edit something. You can take a sentence.
I never have.
It's questionable out.
I suppose I could. I never have done that. But 99% of the comments that come in are posted. We won't post personal attacks. We won't post, anything that, is ridiculously obscene.
By your standards.
Yeah. Okay, we could debate that too. But I think you understand my point. I just want to foster conversations, and as long as it's fostering the conversation, it's okay in most cases.
I think it has to also to do with the audience that you have. You have a certain audience that you appeal to, and they're not want to make some nasty comments, are they? I don't
Sometimes,
think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's human nature to have oppositions and bad feelings. And if you need to express them in the context of a conversation about something important, it's usually okay. If you're going to attack somebody personally, the mayor is a whatever, that to me is not constructive.
I was wondering if we've talked about visual media so far. What about radio? Song lyrics? We have the same issues with those?
Or speech, and speech is covered by the Constitution. Yes, you're dealing with broadcast, you're dealing with FCC, and you go ahead and you remember the whole George Carlin routine about the words you just couldn't say on the air. But if you get away from things that are obscenity, then you're going back to, there are rock lyrics and music lyrics, but there's also hard news that comes over the radio. And where do you draw the lines on things? Well, so far as the press goes, go back, you had the Pentagon Papers case. They try to go ahead and get an injunction to suppress the New York Times from publishing, and the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot have a prior restraint on speech. Papers, on the other hand, do self-censor where national security comes into play. And then on the other hand, you have the other extreme, you have the whole Snowden WikiLeaks dump. So you have a whole continuum. He's over in Russia. I'm sorry, he's moved on, I think. But you have all that, and so where do you draw that line? And at times it's not even just a matter of, I don't want to offend. At times what the media has put in its hands is real live national security. If you have an embedded reporter who's with troops, the idea of them going ahead and disclosing troop movement, location, plans, that is not covered by the First Amendment, at least so far as the courts have held. And yes, the First Amendment doesn't contain that language except in the case of. But the courts have read it and grafted it. But there's a big difference between, as I see it, between a national security concern on the other hand and satire.
And does that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but does that also bring up the idea that news has also become entertainment? in many senses, and it's not necessarily hard news. I mean, why is it appropriate for us to know troop movement? Or is it appropriate that the viewer is going to tune in and feel like they're in the middle of the action?
I don't think that it's appropriate to go ahead and disclose troop movement, anything but appropriate. On the other hand, and this isn't having to do with troop movement, you've always had the press cover our wars. They covered the Civil War, they covered World War II, they covered Vietnam. Because of technology, on the other hand, or furthering it, people want to feel as though they are close to it. And if you go back to Iraq, there was a sense on the part of our government as well that the media could be used to get the government's message out. I mean, it's a two-way street.
Right. But I guess, and maybe I'm misinformed, but I thought that if reporters embed with troops, they have that media source has an agreement that they're not going to disclose things of national security.
Absolutely.
Right. So I guess I don't see where the issue comes up because they're not going to disclose
But
that.
it has come up. I don't think it came up in Iraq, Afghanistan, but it's come up in prior wars, and the courts have had to rule on it. So.
And what did they? Do you know what they held?
Yeah, they held that stuff is not protected speech.
Even recently, with Obama coming to New Rochelle, if you watch the news, they had every turn plotted out, and everyone knew where he was going to be at any given moment, at what time. Is that something that we feel needs to be out there and we have to educate everyone on? I don't know.
Well, it sort of goes back to what you said in the very beginning of our interview, in that it's everywhere. It's instant and it's everywhere.
Right.
Too much information.
Yeah.
And and everybody, it's global. That's the other aspect of
Right.
it. It's instant, but it's so far-reaching.
And
I
it's
think
very-
the combination. I think the combination of that plus the 24/7 news cycle and the pressure to always have something on the air, in your blog, on the radio, in print, creates almost an hysteria at sometimes to make sure that you've got it first.
I think we have an email. That's the signal we're getting.
Okay, here's a question. If you can practice your craft in another country, where and why? Or why not? Journalists in Venezuela, Colombia, and Mexico get killed. Then freedom of speech is defined by country, asks this viewer. Is that true?
What we take as freedom of speech, it could be described as a Western liberal norm. And it's not something that's subscribed to in a lot of other places.
And it's even different here than it is in France and other countries. There are differences.
We have a more liberal libel law here in the United States than even England. And that's a great thing. And that's one thing I don't see any reason to be defensive about. What we are doing, the press, yeah, everyone loves beating on the press. And the media gets criticized. But you go back in time, and this is Mamaroneck. You go down to New Rochelle, what do you see down in New Rochelle? You got Tom Paine. You take a look over here in the neighborhood, St. Thomas, I mean, some of the founders worship there. You see the J House. So our free speech, our notion of free speech, is something that we have for centuries and something that is precious. And at the end of the day, I think we should be thinking twice before we back down, necessarily in the name of all the folks over in France who are going to be getting angry with us.
And I think that's actually a good place for us to end this discussion. I want to thank our guests, Polly Kreisman, Lloyd Green, and Matt Sullivan. You can find Polly at theloopny.com. You're at the Daily Beast.
I'm at the Daily Beast.
And well, Matt's at LMC TV.
Right here.
Next week, we'll be talking with County Legislator Catherine Parker and Judge Christy Derrico about marijuana, drug laws, and parenting.
And we'll be right back with more community stories, so please stay tuned.
This week in sports, Will Arbo gives the Mamaroneck Tigers ice hockey team the early advantage with a goal just 30 seconds into the game. In the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week,
a lot of their games get the puck in deep, go right after it.
This is Arbo. He scores right off the bat. 30 seconds in, it's 1-0 Mamaroneck on a wicked glove side wrister by Will Arbo.
Nobody's stopping that. That was a rocket to the roof, to the toy department, as our good friend Butch Goring would say.
Hey football fans, you won't have to travel far for the best place to catch this season's exciting final showdown.
The Cellar Bar is hosting its annual Super Bowl party. Let's go inside and find out more information.
For the past 24 years, the Cellar Bar has been hosting Larchmont's biggest Super Bowl party. An estimated 100 people will be in and out of the 900 square foot space this year.
Yeah, where you have people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and sometimes even 70s sitting at the bar. So we have a nice cross section. Plus, some people work on Wall Street, some people are auto mechanics, some people are doctors, some people are carpenters. It's really cool.
The uniqueness about the Cellar Bar is that they don't offer any beer specials on Super Bowl Sunday. But don't let this scare you away. Its employees put out catered food on a couple of tables and customers enjoy free food. Plus, they already have affordable beer prices and there's never a cover charge.
Super Bowl Sunday is a lot of fun. They've been having Super Bowl parties here since before I started working here. We put out free food, everything is, you buy your drinks, we pay for everything else.
The bar has different forms of entertainment. They have a jukebox, a dartboard, and 4 TVs that allow you to watch any game from any point in the bar.
We have 4 TVs. A couple of them are on cable and a couple of them are on satellite. And it's interesting because there's a slight delay. So particularly for the Super Bowl where they don't have a lot many replays because commercial time is so expensive, you can actually watch a play on one TV. If you turn around quickly enough, you can rewatch it if you'd like as a kind of almost an instant replay.
Customers love the Cellar Bar. Its staff is very friendly and they expect the same from their clients. Their motto is, be nice or leave.
And we also make sure our customers are really nice, so we invite them to leave.
The Cellar Bar is on Railroad Way, which is conveniently located in front of the Larchmont Metro North train station. It's open from 12 p.m. until 4 a.m. every day of the week, which attracts people of all ages. If you still don't have any plans for Super Bowl Sunday, come down to the Cellar Bar. They'll treat you very well. For the Local Live, I'm Melissa Gutierrez, signing off.
Our pet of the week is Sherman. He lost his previous family and was rescued by the New Rochelle Humane Society. They think he's 1 or 2 years old. Sherman is a demure gentleman and not a barker. If you want to adopt him, you can contact the New Rochelle Humane Society. Just log on to www.newrochellehumanesociety.org. We asked you through social media to share the winter storm with us. We want to thank you, our viewers, for sharing your pictures. Look at these cute kids on their 1 snow day of the year. Lots of snow, lots of cute kids. Even pets got to have a little fun. That's it for this week's News on the Local Live. For more information on the stories aired, you can visit our website, lmctv.org. If you have any comments or questions, email us at thelocallive@lmctv.org. And if you'd like to volunteer, please email our senior news producer, Shayla Navarro, at snavarro@lmctv.org. Thank you for watching. I'm Don Julian, and we will catch you all next time here at The Local Live.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online.
watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is The Local Live.